In 2023, you can pick up an iPhone 11 from eBay for about 250 quid. And for that kind of money, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. In many ways, the iPhone 11 sort of feels like peak iPhone. It does everything that you'd want from a phone, it does it very fast, and all at a great price point. It's weird to think that this phone came out in 2019 because almost 4 years later, it feels like it could have come out this year. It's very modern looking and still feels really fast. Although I do have to say, if you're on a budget and you're not too bothered by the flashy designs of the iPhone 11, take a look at the iPhone SE 2, as it has the same processor as the iPhone 11 and can be picked up on eBay or Amazon for about 150 quid. But in this video, I'll give you a full overview of how the iPhone 11 holds up in 2023, so you can decide whether or not you want to go ahead and buy one. But personally, I think it's a really easy phone to recommend. So starting off with design, and I'm going to be really quick here as I'm sure that you know what an iPhone 11 looks like. It's got the modern iPhone look that we've come to expect with the Face ID and the notch, and it's got a 6.1 inch LCD panel. And literally the only slight downside to this phone is that it's an LCD panel, which isn't as good as the OLED displays on the iPhone 11 Pro onwards. But for most people, myself included, this 720p panel is good enough. It's still plenty good enough for watching videos and movies, and it still gets bright enough on a sunny day. So whilst it's not quite as good as an OLED panel, for the majority of people, it's gonna be more than good enough. For me, 6.1 inches is too big for a phone. Personally, I use an iPhone 12 mini, so I'm clearly not the biggest fan of big phones, but I do think that I'm in the minority here and most people would like a bigger phone. The bottom of this phone has a lightning port with no headphone port, and the back is made of glass, which enables wireless charging. So moving on to performance, and this is where the iPhone 11 really shines. It's powered by the A13 processor and 4GB of RAM, and pretty much any app or game that you throw at the iPhone 11 is still going to run insanely well. Obviously, this phone absolutely aces the basic tasks such as texting, social media and calling, but it also flies through any game, so you can play Call of Duty Mobile on the highest graphics settings. When Fortnite was a thing on the iPhone, you could play that on good graphics settings as well. So the iPhone 11 absolutely flies through any app or game. In terms of software support, I'd easily expect another 3 years of iOS, with a high likelihood of it getting 4, maybe even 5 more years of software support, which is definitely better than pretty much all Android phones at this price point. I do find that there are a few iOS 16 bugs on this iPhone 11, so it's mainly just that the keyboard doesn't always appear. But I do have the same issue on my iPhone 12, so I think it's more of an iOS 16 issue than it is an iPhone 11 issue, and hopefully Apple will resolve that with future software updates. The iPhone 11 really does feel like the point where iPhones just peaked. You're not going to notice the difference between this opening an app and, let's say, the iPhone 14. Sure, the iPhone 14 might be a fraction of a second faster than the iPhone 11, but to most normal people, you're just not going to notice the difference, and the iPhone 11 is more than capable enough. So moving on to the camera, and this is another area where the iPhone 11 absolutely shines, and the difference between the iPhone 11 and the latest iPhone cameras is going to be so minimal that you're barely going to notice it. So the main camera is a 12 megapixel camera and can shoot 4K video, but one of my favorite features is the wide angle lens. So on the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS, Apple included a 2x zoom lens, and for me that really wasn't very useful because the photos never came out looking that good and I just never used it. But on the iPhone 11 series and beyond, Apple have started including a standard lens and then also a wide angle lens, which is a way better feature as it makes taking group photos in tight spaces much easier, and it's something that I personally use a lot. In bright lighting conditions, this camera can take some fantastic shots, and I think the only time when you're going to notice the differences between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 14 is going to be in low lighting conditions or challenging lighting scenarios. So yeah, the iPhone 14 will beat the iPhone 11 if you're taking a photo in the dark. Video on this phone is obviously really good, so it's plenty good enough for vlogging. It looks really that good and it can take 4K 60 video. So moving on to battery, and again this is another area where the iPhone 11 is really good. The iPhone 11 has a 3110 milliamp hour battery, and this is combined with the power efficient A13 processor. So Apple rates the iPhone 11 at 17 hours of video playback. Personally, I've not tested this claim, but I am easily able to get through a full day of use with the iPhone 11, and that's including games, videos, texting and social media. And I think for most people and most normal use cases, you're going to comfortably get through a day, maybe even a day and a half of use. Sure, if you're going to be playing games all day, then you're going to have to charge it throughout the day. But for normal use cases, the iPhone 11 battery is going to be more than good enough. So to conclude, I feel like I've just been talking too kindly about the iPhone 11, but for 250 quid, it's a really easy phone to recommend. And I was shocked when I looked on Amazon just how cheap this phone has got, because you're getting such a good device for your money. But I do have to reiterate, if you're after a phone that's great value and also performs really well and you're not bothered about that Face ID, the full screen display, etc., take a look at the iPhone SE 2. It's about £100 cheaper than the iPhone 11 and still performs just as well and has still a really good camera, although it doesn't have the wide angle camera that the iPhone 11 has. So the iPhone SE 2 is another really good value iPhone that I strongly recommend. However, if you do want that larger 6.1 inch full screen display, the iPhone 11 is a great buy in 2023. And I hope you enjoyed this video, so please do subscribe if you're interested in future tech videos or personal finance videos or whatnot. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.